Hello, everybody. We're going to be learning how to use Blue's anti-prop minge. It's actually incredibly easy to use. So to start, you've got to be one of the ranks predefined in the config, which we'll take a look at in a minute. But if you just go to your weapons tab and spawn BAM underscore controller, or you could just type give BAM underscore controller in console as long as your admin or have SV cheats enabled. Once you've spawned this, if you hit the R key or whatever reload is bound to, you're going to open up this control panel here. Now, the way that this works is you have properties, and each property has zones, doors, and jobs. So you can have as many properties as you want. So we're going to create a property. We're going to name this spawn warehouse, for example. So we'll go ahead and we'll add that. Now we'll select it. And you can see that we can rename it if we want. We can create a zone, add a door, add a job. So what we're going to do is we're going to first create a zone. And we'll just go ahead and we'll do this warehouse over here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go all the way inside up to the very top corner, and we're going to left click once. And you can see that now starts drawing a box wherever we move our cursor. So if we go all the way outside here and we go say about here, and we left click again, you can see that the menu pops back up and we now have a zone there. And with the zone selected, you can see that it's red. So as you can see, that's one zone. It says zone 1. It says the property that it belongs to, which is spawn warehouse. Now what we can do is we can add doors. So when we add a door, so if we come in here and we click there, and then we add another door and we click there, as you can see, those two doors now belong to it. Now we might also want to come over here and add a door to here too. So the way how the doors work is anybody who owns the door, or any groups, for example, you can see that this says owned by medic and owned by cops and mayors. If you're those jobs, or you own the door by purchasing it, or you co-own it, that excuse me, that then gives you authorization to build inside of the zones that exist in that property. So we could add multiple zones, multiple doors, and if you're authorized by one of the doors, you're authorized for all of the zones in that property. It's the same with the jobs down here. We could add team citizen or whatever jobs you wanted to, and then these jobs by default, without having to own any doors, are already authorized. So if I join the server and I'm citizen, although I don't own those doors, because my job is on this list, I am now authorized to build inside of this zone. So that's essentially how you set up zones. And like I said, you can have multiple zones. So I could also do something like, I'm not quite sure why you would do this, but I could also do, say, that, and that would both be part of the same property. So remember, if I get authorized for a property, I can then build in any of its zones. So like I said, if I own one of these doors or own one of those jobs, I can now build in both of these zones. So what I'm also going to go ahead and explain to you is you can have multiple properties, and you can create or delete properties as you wish. One thing I'm going to cover though is, and it's very important, is when defining the zone which the players can build in. It's very important that you specify, um, you know, the floor and the walls correctly. Because let's say I was to build a zone here, okay, and I was to do something like, say, this. Now, the issue with the zone that we've just made here is you can see that it isn't quite on the ground. Now, what this means is anybody who's authorized to build in this zone, when they spawn a prop on the ground here, it's going to be outside the zone, and thus it won't let them spawn that prop. So just make sure that your zones always go from the ground, and make sure that you always encapsulate everything correctly that you want the users to be able to build in, because if you do not, then of course it's going to say that they're building out of bounds when they're not. And like I said, you can do this as many times as you want for all of the map. Like I said, we could create a property here and we could call it hobo, for example. We'll go ahead and we'll create a zone in the middle of the street. It doesn't quite matter where right now. But once we've created this, we could add a job, team underscore hobo. And as a result now, because hobos can't buy doors, of course, they can still build in this particular zone. And once, of course, you're done with everything, be sure to press save all data. Otherwise, when you restart the server, all of the data and changes that you've made will be lost. I also want to point out that there's no need to restart while configuring this. You can configure it while players are on the server, and it won't affect them. It'll all update as it should in real time. So if you add zones, edit zones, remove zones, add jobs, doors, all of this, it should instantly update for the players to allow them to build or not to build in the zones based on what you've done. So the last thing I want to do is I want to cover what it's like from a player's point of view. So we have zone 1, which is part of property name. So we'll go to property name, we'll add a door, and we'll add that door there, and I'll go ahead and I'll save. And just to note, when you want to get rid of the gun, either switch weapons or press right click, and that will go ahead and that will remove the weapon. If a player picks it up, just some random player, they're not going to be able to do anything with it. It's okay, but it's best just to remove it so that they don't get the chance to get it. So anyway, so now that I'm a player, if I go and buy this door over here, just like that. Now that I own this door, in chat I can type !mark build zone, which again can be configured in the config. Ignore that, and as you can see, now I have this outline of this zone. So I'm not in the editor now, I'm just a normal player, but as you can see, I get to see the zones that I'm allowed to build in. So I can't see the other zones over there, only this zone. And as you can see, if I go ahead and I start spawning stuff in here, it's going to work. If I spawn stuff outside the zone, it doesn't work. It tells me that I can't. And if I try to take these outside of the zone, as you can see, it teleports it back and locks it there and tells me that I can't take my prop outside. And of course, this applies for any kind of situation. Kind of how it does this is all configurable in the config. If you have multiple zones, it will work. You know, you can take a prop into another zone as long as the zones overlap each other. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. If you guys have any more questions, then feel free to open a support ticket. And I hope that this was helpful in getting you started with your new add-on.